Welcome to A Clothers YouTube channel. We're learning how to draft this pencil skirt today. Let's get started. So what you do first is you spread your pattern paper, and the measurement we'll be needing is the length of the skirt. The length of the skirt we're using for this is 20. The waist is 34 and the hips is 42. So that's what you need basically to draft your basic skirt pattern: the length, the waist, and the hip. So what you do now, I'm dividing my hip measurement, which is the biggest part, by 2. That will give me 21. So now I want to mark the skirt length on the pattern paper, which is what I'm doing now. The skirt length we are using is 20. So I'm trying to mark that up now. So I first of all rule a line for my center front. So I'm drawing that line out there for my center front now. And I'll mark that as my center front. So like I said, I divided my hip measurement by 2, which is 21. So I'll try to mark 21 on the pattern paper. 42 is the biggest part of my measurement, my hip, for this basic pattern. So whatever you have as your hip measurement, divide by 2, which for me I got 21. So I'm changing that to my center back. So I got 21. So I'm going to mark 21, which is my hip measurement divided by 2. That's what I'm trying to do now. I will mark it and rule a straight line as well. 21. Whatever it is that's your hip measurement, divide it by 2 and mark. I'm taking that measurement from my center back line. That one is not part of this, so I'll go ahead now and rule a straight line there. To connect the dots I just mark. So I'll quickly rule a straight line. So I'm marking the length of the skirt on the pattern paper. The length of the skirt we are using is 20 inches. So on the other side, I measured my 21 inches, which is my hip measurement divided by 2. Now I've marked out the length of the skirts on the paper. So I'm doing all that. So can you see we have a box now? So the next thing I'll mark there now as my center front. And that's the center back, center front. So the next thing I'll do, I'm going to divide this box into 2 equal parts. 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. So I'm dividing into 2 equal parts, so I will just rule a line across. I'm trying to mark that out now. I have 10.5. So I'll connect the dot, and so that's, see what I have. So I divided the box into 2 equal parts, 10.5 on both sides. So one will be for my front pattern and the other one will be for my back pattern. So you use your measurement to do this. If your hip, whatever your hip is, divide it by 2, then divide again by 4 to create this box. So the next thing I'll do now, the length from the waist to the hip for this client is 7.5. You have to measure your client, the distance of your client from waist to hip. Most times it's 8 inches, 7 inches, depending on the height of the client. For this one, this person's measurement is 7.5. For the distance from her waist to her hip is 7.5, which is what I'm marking now. So that will be our hip line. So it varies. You have to measure it on your client. Measurement from waist to hip. For this tutorial, I'm using 7.5 inch because that's the measurement I got. So I'm marking that out now. 7.5 all the way. So I'll just make a horizontal line on that, on my dotted. So I'm trying to connect the lines now. That's 7.5, and that's going to be our hip line, where we'll put our hip measurement. Hip line, that's the hip line. That's our hip line. Okay, so we're done with that. We're going now to the upper. This first line on top will be our waistline. That's our waistline. That's the waistline. So I'll mark that out now. I'm trying to put in my measurements. I'll put the waist measurement on the waistline. I'll put the hip measurement on the hip line. For my waist measurement, I'll divide my waist circumference by 4. For this, my waist is 32. I divided it by 4. I got 8 inches. I added 1 inch for the darts. Then my hip measurement is already divided by 4 as well. 42 divided by 4 is 10.5. That's what I have on the hip. So I'm repeating that for my waistline. My waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch for my dart intake. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm connecting it to the hip line. Divide your waist by 4. Then you add 1 inch for your dart intake. So from your hip line, go up with 1 inch before connecting it, so that place will not be too pointy. So I'm going up my hip line by 1 inch. Then I will just connect the lines now. So I'm repeating the same for the other side. The waist at the back. Can you see? So I'll go up with ½ inch on the waistline. This is basic. Go up with ½ inch. So now for my dart, I'll use my nipple to nipple measurement, my bust span, which is 4 inches, or divide my waist by 4. Whatever result I have, I divide by 2. That will give me 8 inches. 8 inches divided by 2. So I'll go above my hip line with 2.5 inches. Then I'll mark 4 inch all the way. That's your bust span measurement. I'm trying to get a line for my dart intake. So I rule a straight line. Remember, I went 2.5 inches above my hip line. That was why I stopped. So I rule a straight line now. Then I will take my darts 1/2 inch on both sides. 1/2 inch on this side, 1/2 inch on the other side. So connect the line. So connect it on both sides. For my dart. So I'll connect that 1/2 inch I took up to just as I'm doing now. Connect it there. So I'm trying to make it more visible. That's why I'm using my marker too. That's the 1/2 inch up. Then that's our dart intake. 1/2 inch on both sides. I'll repeat this exact process on the front pattern. So I'm doing exactly what I did on the back pattern, on the front pattern as well. So my bust span is what I'm marking, 4 inch. I'll go up with 2.5 inch for my hip line. So I'll connect the lines. So I'll go up with 1/2 inch. I'll connect it. So our skirt is ready. Just remaining. So we are done with the upper part of this skirt. So the next thing we are going to do now is, if you want your skirt tapered to have this fine fit at the lower parts, if you want it tapered on the lower part of the skirt, you can take in half inch on both sides or 1 inch. I prefer taking in 1 inch. So what I'll do now, I'm going to take 1 inch on the lower part. Hope you can see what I'm trying to do. I want this skirt tapered to have this nice fit at the lower part. You can leave it like this, but it's finer when you can use 1/2 inch or 1 inch. I prefer using 1 inch. 1/2 inch is still fine. So you mark 1/2 inch on that side. Can you see what I'm doing now? And you connect it. So I'm marking 1 inch on that side and 1 inch on the other side, on the front and back pattern of this basic skirt. So I'll just connect it. I'll go down for my hip line with 1 inch. Go down from your hip line so that that hip line will not be too sharp. So I'm coming down there with 1 inch and I'll connect it to the lines under. Can you see what I'm doing? I'll repeat that for the other side as well. You see, it's coming out so beautiful already. Can you see? So please subscribe to this channel, like and share this video. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at AA Clothiers. So our skirt is almost ready. So that will give this skirt a tapered look. So for the vent at the back, that's the slit. If you want a vent on it, definitely there will be a vent so you can walk when wearing your skirt. If it's a long dress, 15 inches from the hip line is perfect before you start your vent. But this is a short skirt rather. So it all depends on your preference, how open you want your vent to be. So there's another thing I like doing. It's optional though. I like to take out 1/2 inch from that back side to give it this fit on the boots of the skirt, to give it this fit. So I'll just take out 1/2 inch from that. This is really optional, but I like doing it. It gives my skirt this fit on the boots area. Can you see? But this is optional. Then the next thing for my vent, you can do 2 inches or 1.5 inch on it. So like I said, it all depends on your preference and how long you want it. For a long skirt, 15 inches from the hip line is fine. For this one, I'm just doing 6 inches. I don't want it. So this is really, this depends on your preference. So now I'll just mark 2 inches or 1.5 inch for my vent is perfect. So I'll do 2 inches. 2 inches all the way down. It's very easy. I just like to slant it a bit with 0.25 inch. I don't like it too straight. Then I'll connect it down. Then our skirt is ready. Can you see? It's so simple. These are basic skirt pattern. You cut it out, place on your fabric and cut your skirt. It's ready. So see what we have now. Thank you. Bye.